Where are my proud Latinos at tonight? You guys see what I mean? It's wide open. There's so many of them. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
When you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America, welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. I love comedy. I love all forms of comedy, whether it be stand-up, whether it be in movies, satire, parody. I love it all. Hell, I wrote a book that's basically parody of today's state of politics. And we're doing a show right now that is talking about the dumb newsmakers of the week, taking those people in power and bringing them down a notch, taking those stuffed shirts for what they're worth and pointing out that they do dumb things too, not only to show that they're just like us here in the masses, but also as a corrective measure to sort of have these people change the way they see things, change the way they do things, so they're not so dumb and we don't have to point and laugh at them anymore. That being said, today's climate when it comes to comedy, especially when dealing with politics, society, culture, what have you, it's more like a minefield than just an open forum that we can all sit back, relax, and joke together. Today's PC culture, the woke culture out there, it's created an environment where even comedians can't speak freely, can't, work out jokes out in the open, can't try different things, push the envelope, as it were. Because if a well-timed zinger goes over, that's great. But if there's a joke that bombs, next thing you know, you're dealing with triggered people all over the place, and trying to cancel you becomes commonplace in society. That's exactly what happened with this stand-up comedian. You may know Tony Hinchcliffe from his different work online on YouTube. Check out his stuff. He pushes the envelope, but very often funny, and brings people together with his humor because everyone's a target. Everyone, he goes after them, whether you're a man, woman, whatever race, religion, creed, whatever it is, sexual orientation. He's an equal opportunity hater.
You all suck, donkey butts.
Well, Tony was invited to speak at Trump's MSG rally that occurred over the weekend. That was very well attended. And he had a couple of jokes that bombed, and the PC police were after them in the form of Tim Walz and AOC. These people really got to get their stick out of their ass. We're going to examine the jokes themselves, their reaction to it, meaning Tim Walz and AOC, and also seeing how normal people reacted to Tony Hinchcliffe's jokes. But before we do all that, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you're seeing here in this or any other video on the channel, you guys already know what to do. You're going to smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends. All that really, really good stuff. Because all that's going to help this show grow via the YouTube algorithm. Feed me. As always, gang, thank you so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. You know I appreciate all of your efforts. And for all you newbies out there who may have found the show for the first time, whether you're watching on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, I hope this video earns your subscription as we talk about not only AOC and Tim Walz's reaction to Tony Hinchcliffe's humor, but we're going to put it into the greater context of other people's reaction, and then we're going to expose a little bit of hypocrisy from those on the left. We're going to start with Tony's set. Now, I'm not going to play the entire set that he did at this Trump rally at Madison Square Garden in the People's Republic of New York City. That would take a long time, and I don't want to rob you of the opportunity of finding it yourself. By the way, it's linked down below in the description of this video. That being said, I am going to give you a little bit of context from before and after the offending joke that triggered AOC and Tim Walz so much, so you get a flavor of the style of Tony Hinchcliffe's humor and how he works a crowd and how he works this particular crowd. Remember, a stand-up comedian doesn't appear at a political rally very often, so they're not exactly going to follow a script that's going to be very straight-laced and very unoffensive and really toe that line for political reasons. Tony's going to be Tony, as you'll see in the clip.
There's serious stuff happening, people. I live in the great state of Texas now. 18 years in Ohio, 20 years in California, and I got to see California turn to absolute horrendous thing. And traveling the world, I got to see San Francisco turn into one of the most demented cities, one of the greatest downfalls I've ever seen. And that is where the other candidate worked for 2 decades. And it's absolutely wild to see. And in Texas, stuff is really crazy. We're right there by a wide open border. Where are my proud Latinos at tonight? You guys see what I mean? It's wide open. There's so many of them. It's absolutely incredible. Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this. It's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country.
Now, believe it or not, we haven't gotten to the really offending joke that triggered AOC and Tim Walz. You see what he's doing, what every comedian does, really. He goes after different groups of people. He was talking about California before, talking about all Latinos in general now. And as you'll see, he's going to hit on different people, including his mother, who lives in Ohio.
Republicans are the party with a good sense of humor. Free speech is under attack, people. I host a show, and each week I get updates what words we're allowed to use and not use anymore. It's happening right now the past few years. It's a real thing. And, you know, used to be able to tell people to Google stuff. My mom's a boomer in the state of Ohio, and there's no convincing her of anything. She's eating the cats. She's eating the dogs. They're eating the pets up there. It is absolutely wild times. It really is. And, you know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now.
Here it comes.
I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay, all right. Okay, we're getting there. Now, again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup.
Ooh, tough room.
So, yeah, that joke bombed, and that's the joke that triggered everyone. But Tony's experience with working a crowd, just not necessarily this type of crowd that's there for a political rally. Some people are getting offended. You heard the groans for the joke. It didn't land really well, but it was certainly an attempt at humor, and Tony does his best to get the crowd back.
There's some people here. All right, very good. I like it. I have other policies that I think it should be implemented as well. Like me personally, I think football should be all year round. Yeah. So many great athletes. I don't know about you guys, but I think that Travis Kelce might be the next O.J. Simpson. Feels good in here. The other side's got a lot of crazy endorsements. Swift, Eminem, Leo DiCaprio, Beyonce. Every day the Democratic Party looks more and more like a P. Diddy party. Oh, okay. Okay, that's what you guys want.
We're going to be fine. We're back on track.
See what he's doing? He's trying different material to get the crowd warmed up for the rest of the guest speakers that are going to be coming out during the rally, including former President Donald Trump. He's trying different material. This is an opening act. He said he came on after the national anthem. So he insults celebrity culture. He's insulting Democrats. He's insulting, people from Puerto Rico and the place they live. He insulted his mother. He's got other targets here, too.
All right. Heck yeah. It's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh, my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. You guys are, this is a groany little morning crowd, huh?
Oh no! We suck again!
You see another joke bombed about a African-American person in the audience, and people didn't want to laugh at it. Some did, some didn't. But you know what? That's comedy. Not every joke is going to land.
Win some, lose some.
Tony Hinchcliffe rides the edge very much. He pushes the envelope like many insult comics have done, especially in the past. I bring up Don Rickles all the time because he's a little bit of an idol of mine. I love that he was able to mix insults with comedy, go after people individually, go after people collectively, and it was all in the name of entertaining everyone. That's what Tony, I think, is trying to do here. But there are many people out there in today's society that don't like this sort of pushing of the boundaries, the riding the edge that Tony does in his stand-up. In fact, they want to police this sort of behavior because it's so offensive to them. The pearl clutching is coming, folks. For some reason, Tim Walz and AOC were watching the Trump rally live online. And right after the joke about Puerto Rico that didn't really land, AOC and Tim Walz pounced for their own audience.
Who is that jackwad? Who is that guy?
Actually, I think that's Tony Hinchcliffe, which is super disappointing. I mean, I don't. He's a comedian. I don't
Yeah, but
follow
look, Trump,
this
this issue
very
with Puerto
closely,
Rico
but-
again. I saw it. This was when he went down after Helene, the horrific hurricane. People there, everybody coming together. We sent helicopters down from Minnesota and personnel. You know, this is how you do this during this. And in the first hours, Trump complaining about the response. Does anybody remember how he responded to Maria in Puerto Rico? It was absolutely horrific. Down there insulting people, throwing it. Look, I know that the folks who are on here today understand this. People in Puerto Rico are citizens. They pay taxes and they serve in the military at almost a higher rate than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's like super upsetting. Obviously, it's super upsetting to me. My family is from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican, and like the thing that is so messed up that I wish more people understood is that the things that they do in Puerto Rico are a testing ground for the policies and the horrors that they wish to and that they do unveil in working class communities across the United States. And
what the hell is going on here? They're taking a joke that bombed. Let's be honest. That particular joke didn't go over well with the Republican crowd, and they're trying to parlay that into a discussion about policy in Puerto Rico and then largely about policy of working class families.
How did we get here?
I don't understand why they just didn't say, haha, you hired a sucky comedian. Look at this joke that bombed, you idiot. And use their own brand of comedy and pointing out the shortcomings of the joke. But instead, they go into this attack mode. They pounce on Donald Trump, who wasn't on stage there, about some sort of reaction to the hurricanes this year that affected Puerto Rico. And I hope everybody is doing okay down there. And now AOC is going to go into it, how she's so offended by this because she is Puerto Rican. And well, listen to this. Listen to this rant.
I need people to understand that when you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you. That
is
is
exactly,
like,
look,
that's just what they think about you. It's what they think about anyone who makes less money than them. It's what they think about the people who serve them food in a restaurant. It's what they think about the people who fold their clothes in a store.
Think about how stupid this take is. The joke bombed before a Republican crowd. The they that I think AOC is referring to. This is what they think of you. This is what they think of not only Puerto Ricans, but all working class people. Think about that expansion of the thought beyond a joke that bombed. So because some people, I guess, laughed at a joke, that means that they think that a whole people, a whole society, a whole culture is the shits. Really? You're taking things a little too far. This is taking things to the extreme, to the nth degree. I don't know how anybody can take this credibly and listen to this unless there's a confirmation bias there with the listener saying, they don't like those Puerto Ricans. No, no, no. Even though it sounded like the joke didn't land. It's so stupid.
Like,
You're
dude,
right.
are you serious?
The
Like, are
privilege
you
of being-
serious?
No, he's not serious. He's joking. It was a joke. It was a bad joke, in my opinion. It was a joke that bombed in a crowd of tens of thousands of people. No, he's not being serious. He's trying to do comedy. Good Lord. How thick do you have to be here?
Yeah, the privilege of being on this campaign is traveling across the entire country. There are hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans in battleground states that need to send them a message on this.
I want them to
You gotta vote.
roll that. I want everyone in Philadelphia to see that clip. If
Yes.
you live in Philly, why don't you go and see that
Or
clip?
Reading. Yes.
If you
across
live
this
in
country.
Reading, Pennsylvania, which I was there, I was in Reading last week. If
You're-
you're in Reading,
Great
if you're in
community.
Philly,
Super, yeah.
What the hell are you babbling about?
Come on. They're trying to make this into a talking point on the campaign to attach a bad joke to the entirety of the Trump campaign. This is what they think of you. And what they think of you is a crowd groaning at a bad joke that didn't land. How exactly does that help a campaign? If it shows that most Republicans in that crowd didn't like the insult of Puerto Ricans. If we really think about this, AOC is saying to imagine that the Republicans that booed really liked that joke, really liked Tony Hinchcliffe's bomb joke. It didn't work, obviously.
You're grasping at straws.
look at that trash. Like, what is trash is people actually just thinking of other human beings that way. Are you actually for real? And the thing that gets me is that these people their entire lives rely on working class people. If you have someone that's not there to harvest the crops that show up in your grocery store, in your Erewhon or your Whole Foods or wherever it is that you go to eat, if you think lesser of working class Americans, of
Caring
people
for
who
our
are
children.
What did she just say?
Is AOC and Tim Walz saying that Puerto Ricans are only good for harvesting crops and doing menial labor and things like that? Jobs that others, they believe, look down upon? Isn't that just as bad as assuming that everyone in the Republican Party thinks that Puerto Rico is a garbage island? What sort of savior bullshit is this?
That's a subtle racism of lowered expectations.
This is par for the course, by the way, in my opinion, when it comes to leftist talking points about working class people. And you know, we have a couple of socialists here, in my opinion, trying to drive a wedge and calling Puerto Ricans working class people. By the way, you guys know this already. There are all types of income stratas within all types of different ethnic, social, cultural, religious groups out there. To just assume that all Puerto Ricans are working class people, that's offensive to me. That's not, and that wasn't put forth as a joke. That's a true core belief, apparently, of AOC, lumping in Puerto Ricans with only working class people. That's not true at all. You know from your own life that there are people there from all types of different backgrounds that have all types of different jobs and different positions in society that has nothing to do with anybody's pigeonholed, sort of myopic view of society and culture. And that's what AOC has here.
That's racist!
This reaction, thankfully, is not what I see from everyday people. And when we come back, we're going to not only go into some of the reactions after the Trump rally from actual Puerto Rican voters, but we're going to show how AOC and Tim Walz are running a real hypocritical game when it comes to this faux outrage towards Tony Hinchcliffe's jokes. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. As you can imagine, there are many people live streaming and taking videos at this Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, this very large political event. And some people on the street talk to other people on the street, specifically Puerto Rican voters, about this joke from Tony Hinchcliffe that bombed during the rally.
Trump 2024.
Yo, now that I got my fellow Puerto Ricans, obviously what happened there tonight, everybody's talking
Beautiful,
about it.
epic.
But the Puerto Rican joke, the garbage island stuff, do you guys even give a fuck about that?
No,
I don't. No, I don't.
I don't even pay a mind. I don't even pay attention to it.
Puerto Ricans for Trump. Lock in. Stay locked in on the go.
So those guys, they seem to be really ultra Trump supporters. They didn't seem to care about a joke that didn't land. There are others out there that had a more measured view of the joke itself.
Y'all already know, my boy. I told you guys.
We like jokes. We like jokes.
We do. And we understand the importance of a comedian having the freedom to push the envelope, because that's always been what has separated comedians from like everyday folks, right? Where they can push the envelope to either make you laugh or make you think or challenge you, right? But
Pero, because obviously we're such proud Puerto Ricans, I will say that it is not a little floating pile of trash. This beautiful island filled with beautiful people that love the beautiful islands, and it's okay to have different opinions. That's what makes America great, that people could just have different opinions. So you know what? We're not offended. Did we like the joke?
No,
I didn't like the joke.
I
don't even think the crowd, he bombed that joke.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny, don't get me wrong. At first, I'm like,
the joke
wow, that's
in
crazy.
New York City maybe was not like in the right landing.
Probably right. Probably not the
right
have mixed emotions.
Okay, so that's a matter of knowing your audience. And if you watch Tony Hinchcliffe's, I guess we'll call it a set, at this Trump rally, you see that some jokes hit, some jokes missed. But he was going after everyone and his mother literally during his time on stage. This was a perfectly reasonable take that I happen to agree with. The joke didn't land, and that doesn't mean that we throw out the comedian with the bathwater here. We just know that some people are going to find some things funny and others aren't. That's what makes America great. We're diverse, yet we come together and understand the freedoms behind those sort of actions. Now comes the hypocrisy from AOC and Tim Walz. Check this out. A day before Trump's rally in Madison Square Garden, there was this rally by the Harris-Walz campaign that invited comedian George Lopez on stage. Check this out.
Donald Trump said he was going to build a wall, and George Lopez said, you better build it in one day, because if you leave that material out there overnight.
Oh, look at all the laughter and all the happy faces with such an offensive joke towards Latino people, specifically Mexicans, calling them thieves? Where was the outrage from AOC and Tim Walz from this performance at their own rally? Where was the faux pearl clutching from people like AOC and Tim Walz? I'm looking at a lot of white people in the crowd there, and a lot of Latino people as well in the crowd with smiles on their faces. That joke landed. Even though the premise of it, calling Mexicans thieves, it is just as offensive, in my opinion, as calling Puerto Rico an island of trash. You guys get what's going on here? There's a lot of tribalism going on. Because George Lopez is a Democrat, he's able to make that joke. Maybe also because he's Latino and he's Mexican, he can make that joke. Meanwhile, Tony Hinchcliffe tries to push the envelope with his own joke that, to me, is just as offensive to another group of Hispanics, and it doesn't land well, and all of a sudden the Dems go on the attack over it. It's completely stupid and completely buffoonish, but it's also completely hypocritical. Just to wrap things up in a nice, neat bow, Tony Hinchcliffe had his own response to AOC and Tim Walz's reaction to his edgy humor at the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, he responded on X, quote, "These people have no sense of humor. Wild that a vice presidential candidate would take time out of his, quote, busy schedule to analyze a joke taken out of context to make it seem racist. I love Puerto Rico and vacation there. I made fun of everyone. Watch the whole set. I'm a comedian, Tim. Might be time to change your tampon."
Lighten up, Francis.
I love Tony's response here. It's in the spirit of true comedy and true defenders of the First Amendment. He's going to be edgy and he's going to offend everyone. Some jokes are going to land well, some are not. That's the nature of the beast when it comes to stand-up comedy. Tim Walz decided to take that one joke in isolation and run with it as a policy point and try to impugn Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and all Republicans as being racist towards Hispanic people, Puerto Ricans. And then AOC took it a step further to try to extend it out to working class people. Truly a buffoonish attempt at that. That being said, of course, some jokes land, some don't. Some people get offended, some won't. That's America, folks. Get used to it. All these snowflakes out there have tried to ruin comedy for all of us. They don't allow comedians to experiment with material, to try to push that edge because they're maybe fearful of being canceled. And the woke mob is always out there looking for their next victim.
This is cancel culture run amok.
But also remember the hypocrisy you just saw with the clip from George Lopez that Democrats had at a rally. Where's the outrage? It's all fake. It's all intended to win an election. It's intent to inflame the passions of people to go and then vote a certain way. It's the hot mess that I talk about in my book, which I'm going to grab for right now. Schnook's, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. I had to get the grift in there somehow. Hot messes, folks, are the types of politicians that intentionally try to anger and inflame passions of voters in order for them to act a certain way that they want. In this case, it's AOC and Tim Walz that are trying to inflame the passions of Hispanic voters, especially in a swing state like Pennsylvania, in order for them to vote a certain way. But as we saw in the clip that followed, it looked like the average reasonable person would say, you know what? Bad joke, didn't land well. That doesn't mean I'm not going to stop this guy from trying again. And yeah, Puerto Rico is not a garbage island. Of course it's not a garbage island. But let's allow this guy to try to make up with the next joke. And that, to me, is the reasonable take that everybody should be taking. That's my opinion on all this. But I want to know what you guys think. Let's get into the comments together. And as always, like and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. What do you think about this joke in particular, Tony Hinchcliffe's comedy in general, and more importantly, the reaction from the left, all the pearl clutching, all the faux outrage in reaction to that joke? Let's talk about it together in the comments, and any other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.